Now, in 2008, New Zealand grabbed a world first. This was a first mover advantage on the middle class emerging in China, and New Zealand's exports to China have since grown from $600 million to $3.5 billion a year, with China now making up 36% of the sector's exports overall. Finally, after our election and a pandemic, the virtual signing of an upgrade to New Zealand's China Free Trade Agreement last week was, let's say, our Chinese New Year present to New Zealand. Executive Director for New Zealand International Business Forum, Stephen Jacobi, joins us now to talk about how we are sort of taking our relationship with our favourite trading partner to the next level, really. And if I do want to delve into the UK, getting a bit of FOMO over in the corner. But firstly, on China, can you just let us know more about what the upgrade means and why do we need to go down and upgrade? What was wrong with the existing agreement, Stephen?
Yes, hi Sarah, great to see you and to be with you, and everyone, thanks for the opportunity. Look, you're absolutely right, it was a groundbreaking move in 2008 when we signed the FTA with China, and it has led to a blossoming of our trade and economic relationship. There's nothing wrong with the agreement, except that it was signed in 2008. And here we are 12 years later, or even 13, the world has changed somewhat. Business has changed, the way we deliver products to Chinese consumers has changed, and some niggly things that we weren't quite able to get right at that time, we've now been able to conclude. So this is really a bringing up to date of the agreement, which is important because some other countries, competitors of ours, have also negotiated FTAs in the interim period. But the base agreement is still very solid.
The clearance of perishable goods is a big thing, and particularly with a lot of our fresh produce. Has this been just a learning curve of the last 10, 12 years in terms of how to deliver on our relationship originally?
Yes, I think that's right. We've got a lot more experience now of very high-scale trade with China, and we know how critical it is to have goods that can move through the supply chain very quickly and efficiently and in a cost-effective way. And we know that delays at the border can cause a lot of problems and cause exporters a lot of money. In fact, the Chinese are probably meeting that target already on many occasions. But it's good to have it in an agreement like this. It was in, by the way, the other agreement we signed back in November, the RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, was in there too. So this is, yes, building on our knowledge of that trade. And another area, which you might say is the same, the procedure we've got now to more quickly resolve problems that arise with non-tariff barriers. This is either because a rule has been put in place that is more trade restrictive than necessary, or holds things up, or is not really, achieving what it set out to do. There's an expedited procedure now to address those issues, and that's because as tariffs have come down across the board in the original agreement, non-tariff barriers have become more of a problem. So yeah, we've learned about those things over that period.
Do we dare talk about Australia's relationship with China and, of course, the walls going up extremely fast on Australia from China, and why, as you said, non-trade barriers to New Zealand isn't that first jump at something that's wrong in that agreement?
That's right. That's often what happens, by the way, when things go wrong. Sort of spurious little rules get put in place to slow things up. Look, I think the Australians hurting at the moment because of the developments in the relationship, and we hope that they can resolve those soon. In the meantime, obviously, we want to get on and build our relationship in the best way that we can. And I think this is the real significance, actually, of the upgrade agreement. It's not going to be as big as the original agreement we signed. It's going to bring a lot of valuable and useful things, including in areas like e-commerce, which we could also discuss. But the real benefit is it demonstrates very clearly that New Zealand and China are able to do business. We're on the same wavelength. We can resolve problems. We can look to achieving new things together. And this is despite all the problems around COVID, all the problems around geopolitics, the trade war, And let's face it, the criticism that we too sometimes level at China for their human rights record or around developments in Hong Kong. What I think this agreement shows is that we have a healthy enough relationship for sometimes to have different views, but still to do the business.
Let's talk about e-commerce, because in the face of a pandemic that can be ongoing for however long, food service is suffering, and there is a lot of exporters here in New Zealand facing that, and the e-commerce now makes up our future. What changes have been made through this upgrade to allow for more free-flowing trade in that way?
Well, what we've seen actually is the first set of rules being put in place around e-commerce and the way it should function. So a lot of these things aren't particularly groundbreaking because we're kind of observing them anyway with China, and China's observing them with us. But I mean, they're codified in a different sort of way, which is very useful. And there are new procedures around the acceptance of electronic documents, around e-signatures, and those sorts of things that again are all about speeding things up, making the wheels move more quickly and more cost effectively. So, and we've got a provision in there that we can continue to discuss e-commerce between the two governments to offset any future problems that might occur. So that's all good stuff, because e-commerce, as you quite rightly said, and particularly in this time, is becoming a much bigger channel to get products to consumers.
But also, too, for the transparency of supply chains and the use of blockchain technology going into the future. And this is for purely the use of counterfeit products and fraudulent country of origin, of which New Zealand suffered in a lot of Chinese product being rebranded as New Zealand. Was that part of the discussion?
Well, I'm sure it has come up in the discussion in one way or another, and I'm not sure that we've completely solved those problems, to be perfectly frank with you. It's a problem for the Chinese government, and even in China for trade within China in Chinese products. But they've made a lot of efforts to try to address, better intellectual property rules. Of course, we've got the big issues with Zespri and the illegal growing of gold kiwi fruit that the Zespri is, I think, very proactively addressing with the Chinese government as a partner to be able to do it. I mean, I suppose the relevance of the FTA upgrade is that it demonstrates to everybody in concern that New Zealand and China at the government level are talking to each other and are on good terms. And there are mechanisms to be able to address issues as they occur.
Okay, let's jump to the UK. The UK have made an application to join the CPTPP. Is this the first time that they've had an appetite for it, or has it always sort of been on the table in the background?
Well, actually, of course, they can only do this because they've left the European Union now, definitively. But no, they've been talking for some time about wanting to join CPTPP, which brings a whole new definition of the Pacific, doesn't it? And trans-Pacific. But never mind about that. What CPTPP is all about is being an open agreement that is indeed open to other economies from wherever who can live up to its high standards. And the UK believes it can live up to those high standards, and so wishes to join. And that's, I think, a very welcome development. However, it's not the end of the story, because there's some water to flow under the bridge yet between New Zealand and the UK in terms of our own FTA negotiation, which we have to get right, particularly on the agricultural market access side. And to solve this problem of the TRQs, particularly on sheep entering the UK and the EU. So these things are all linked, because New Zealand, for once, and I can't remember this happening before, Sarah, for once we have some leverage over this, because they basically need New Zealand's agreement to be able to join CPTPP. So that gives us some pretty good leverage.
Isn't it ironic, Stephen? Thinking back to the days of the Commonwealth, where the rest of the world needed the UK, and now the UK want to be a part of everyone else's game. It is highly ironic.
It's also ironic when you think about it. They've just left the world's largest customs union and now want to ply their trade further afield. I mean, good luck to them. I think we've got to get over the Brexit thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I come from a British background myself, and I can't quite understand it. But that's what they've decided. That's what they've done. They're now building a new future. They want to be part of the Asia Pacific. As I say, if they can live up to the agreement's high standards and give us vastly improved access for dairy and sheep meat and beef, then I feel they will be a very welcome participant in TPP. I mean, there's a lot of other aspects to it that have to be worked out, and there are other members. But as I say, I think we need to be very clear about what this means for us.
Stephen, you were just mentioning your ties to the UK. What is one UK product that you wish we could source in New Zealand so that we could buy that you're so proud of?
Oh, gosh, I don't think there are any products we can't source in New Zealand from the UK in one way or another. But I've lived in New Zealand all my life, so perhaps I'm not quite so nostalgic. It's often said that we will have vast more amounts of Scotch whisky flowing in this direction if we get into the FTA. It wouldn't be a bad thing, in my view, as long as they buy our wine.
There you go. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Stephen Jacobi, Executive Director of the New Zealand International Business Forum, joining us there.